The first time I saw him, I told myself it was just a night terror, the brain misfiring, replaying some forgotten childhood fear like a broken VHS tape. But the second time, I was awake, or I thought I was. And that's the problem with sleep paralysis. By the time you realize you aren't dreaming, it's already too late to close your eyes. It started 3 weeks ago after a string of 12-hour shifts at the county morgue. I'm a forensic technician, mostly data entry, cataloging evidence, the occasional fingerprint analysis. I'm not the one who does the autopsies. I just file the paperwork, but I see the bodies. I see their faces, the way the skin tightens over the skull after the blood settles. You get used to it, the way anyone gets used to anything. Your brain builds a wall. Then one night that wall cracked. I came home at 2 a.m., dead on my feet. My apartment is a second-floor walk-up on the edge of a suburban development called Willow Creek Estates, ironic, because the last willow tree in this zip code was bulldozed in 1998. The bedroom faces a drainage ditch and a strip of floodlights that guard a storage unit facility. Cheap rent, bad sleep. I collapsed into bed without changing out of my scrubs. The ceiling fan hummed. The digital clock on the nightstand read 2:47. I remember that number because it would become a kind of milestone, a timestamp for a nightmare that kept returning. I fell asleep almost instantly. Then at precisely 3:33 a.m., I checked the clock again later. I woke up. But I couldn't move. My eyes were open, fixed on the ceiling fan, but my body was a dead weight pinned to the mattress by an invisible force. My arms lay like logs at my sides. My legs were fused to the sheets. I tried to lift my head, nothing. I tried to scream, my throat contracted, but no sound came out. Only a thin wheeze like air leaking from a punctured tire, and then I saw it. The door to my bedroom was open. I always close it at night. The hallway beyond was dark but not empty. A figure stood there, silhouetted against the faint orange glow of the smoke detector's lead. It was tall, too tall. Its head brushed the doorframe, and its shoulders were broad, but its arms hung at angles that looked wrong, like a puppet whose strings had been cut and retied by someone who didn't understand anatomy. It didn't move. It just stood there, breathing. I could hear it. A wet, labored sound like someone drowning through a straw. I stared at it for what felt like an eternity. The paralysis held. The fan turned. The clock clicked to 3:34. And then the figure took one step forward into the threshold of the light. I saw its face. It wasn't a face exactly. It was a man's features, nose, eyes, mouth, but pulled tight as if the skin had been stretched over a skull that was too large. The eyes were open, black, without iris or pupil. The mouth hung slack, a dark oval, and from it came that wet breathing sound. It smelled like the morgue after a long shift. Formaldehyde and iron and something sweet underneath like rotting fruit. It took another step. My heart slammed against my ribs. I tried to move my fingers. Nothing. I tried to close my eyes. I couldn't. The muscles wouldn't respond. I was trapped, a specimen pinned to a board, watching something that should not exist approach me. It stopped at the foot of my bed. It leaned forward, its face lowering toward mine until its nose was inches from my own. The smell was overpowering, and then it spoke. Its voice was low, like gravel rolling uphill, and it said 3 words. "You know, mate." The paralysis broke. I shot upright in bed, gasping, drenched in sweat. The room was empty. The door was closed. The clock read 3:36. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat in the living room with all the lights on, a butcher knife in my lap, watching the front door. Nothing moved. The sun came up. I went to work. I told myself it was just sleep paralysis, a known phenomenon, a glitch in the brain stem. I'd read about it. A hallucination generated by the amygdala triggered by stress and exhaustion. I had both. I convinced myself I was fine. But that night it happened again. Same time, 3:33 a.m., same paralysis, same figure standing in the doorway. Only this time it was closer before I even opened my eyes. It was already beside the bed, leaning over me, its black eyes fixed on mine. The wet breathing was louder, more urgent. It reached out a hand, long, pale fingers, nails yellowed and chipped, and placed it on my chest. The pressure was immense, like someone sitting on my sternum. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even wheeze. The figure leaned its face close to mine, and I could see something moving inside its mouth, small shapes like maggots writhing in the dark. It spoke again. This time, different words. "You took my photo." And then I felt its hand slide from my chest to my throat. It didn't squeeze, it just rested there, cold, clammy, fingers wrapping around my neck with the casual weight of a collar. I felt my windpipe compress. Black spots swam in my vision. I woke up on the floor, tangled in sheets, gasping. The clock said 3:34. The door was open. That morning, I called in sick. I drove to the morgue anyway because I couldn't shake the feeling that the answer was there in the files, in the evidence lockers, in the faces of the dead I'd cataloged. I spent 2 hours pulling cold cases, looking for anything that matched the figure. Missing persons, unidentified remains, Jane and John Does, and then I found it. A case from 2017. A man found in a drainage ditch on the edge of Willow Creek Estates, less than a block from my apartment. He'd been dead for weeks before they found him. The body was badly decomposed, but the autopsy photos showed something strange. The skin had retracted from the skull, pulling the features tight. The eyes were gone, empty sockets. The mouth hung slack, a dark oval. He was tall, broad-shouldered. The report listed cause of death as undetermined, but noted that the victim had been positioned deliberately, arms at unnatural angles, legs crossed at the ankle. It was him. And then I saw the photo log. On the day of recovery, a forensic photographer had taken 47 images of the scene. But number 48 existed in the file, a photo taken later at the morgue by a technician who'd been fired for improper handling of evidence. The log didn't list a name, but I recognized the photo. It was a close-up of the victim's face, and in the reflection of his empty eye socket, you could see the photographer's silhouette. The photographer was wearing the same scrubs I wear now. I closed the file. My hands were shaking. I looked at my reflection in the blacked-out computer monitor. I thought about the figure's words, "You know me, you took my photo." I don't remember taking that photo. I've never been a forensic photographer. I started working at the morgue in early 2023, 6 years after that case was closed. But the file had my name on it, not as the photographer, as the witness. Someone had written "photographer unknown, witness statement attached" in the margins. There was no witness statement. The file was incomplete. That night, I didn't go home. I crashed on a coworker's couch. At 3:33 a.m., I was wide awake, staring at the ceiling fan in her guest bedroom, listening to the hum. Nothing happened. No figure, no paralysis. I thought maybe I'd dodged it. But when I got back to my apartment the next morning, the bedroom door was open. I always close it. On my nightstand, next to the digital clock, there was a single Polaroid, yellowed, creased, clearly years old. It showed a man's face, decomposed, skin tight over bone, empty sockets staring directly into the lens. It was the photo from the file, the one I didn't remember taking. And in the reflection of the right eye socket, there was a face, my face, but younger, hollowed out. My eyes were black, my mouth was slack. I didn't take that photo, I swear I didn't. But someone did. And whoever that person was, they looked exactly like me. I'm writing this from a motel room 40 miles away. I left the apartment. I left the morgue job. I told my boss I had the flu. But tonight at 3:33 a.m., the digital clock in this motel room will click over, and I know that when it does, the door will open. The air will get cold, and I will hear that wet breathing behind me, whether I'm awake or asleep, because the line between them has been erased. I don't know who took that photo. I don't know why the figure comes to me. But I keep thinking about something the file mentioned, a detail I didn't write down. The victim had no identification, no dental records, no fingerprints. He was a John Doe, but the coroner noted something strange under distinguishing features. A tattoo on his left forearm. I rolled up my sleeve, I checked. And now I'm sitting here in the dark with the lights on, staring at the ink on my own skin, a small, faded symbol I've had since I was 19. I don't remember getting it. I never thought about it much. But the file described it exactly. Same placement, same design. I've never been to Willow Creek Estates before I moved here. I've never seen that drainage ditch. I've never been a forensic photographer. But the man in that morgue photo, the one I didn't take, had my tattoo, my face, my height, my build. I told myself it was just sleep paralysis. Now I'm not sure if I'm the one who's awake. The clock just clicked over. 3:33. The motel door is closed, but I can hear it, the wet breathing, right outside the bathroom where the light is off and the shadows are deep. I'm not going to look, but I know it's there, and I think it's been there longer than I've been alive. I think it's waiting for me to remember what I did. I just don't know if I want to find out.